Fanfic Corner, presented by Jennifer. Journey to Peace, Chapter 21. Okay, for those of you who have not yet seen the first few chapters for Journey to Peace, I suggest you go view those now, as this is a continuation of that story. Callum looked up from his sketchbook as Rayla leapt out of the trees on the other side of the clearing and landed perfectly. Ran landing not a second later at her side. "I win!" Rayla exclaimed, a blinding grin on her face as she turned to the older elf. Ran chuckled, rolling his eyes. "You did, but you also had a head start." Rayla rolled her eyes. "So I did," she admitted, walking towards Callum. Ram had looked up from where he had been examining his blades, and was watching the exchange. "Welcome back," Callum greeted as Rayla settled beside him, peering over his shoulder to look at the half-finished sketch of Ram and his blades. "Something tells me you're going to be busy drawing for a while," she mused fondly. "If the same thing that happened with Ram happens with everyone, then definitely." Callum smiled at her, and she smiled back. "It's kind of weird how fast things have been happening," she murmured softly. He nodded, letting out a breath as he laid his sketchbook and pencil down. "Yeah, it's been crazy, but I wouldn't change it for anything." "I wouldn't either. Somehow everything worked out so that we ran into each other in that hallway, and that Ez found the egg. Somehow everything has gone just right enough for us to end up here." She paused, blinking violet eyes at him. "But as crazy as it's been, I wouldn't change a thing, especially if it might risk not meeting you." He nodded in agreement. "Yeah." By now the sun was setting, disappearing into the treetops, and everyone else had settled down, Ran taking the first watch with the other three to sleep. "Callum?" Her voice was quiet, and Callum turned to look at her again. "Yeah?" It came out as a question. "Do you believe in fate?" He hesitated. "I'm not really sure." She chuckled. "I'm not really either, but at the same time, all of just this feels like it's been too many coincidences, one after another, for it not to be." They lapsed into silence, both of them thinking, and at some point she rested her head on his shoulder. "Callum?" Her voice was yet again quiet, but he could hear the note of hesitation in it. "What is it?" he asked, quiet to match her. His voice was quiet to match hers. "I've never been the best at saying how I feel, or opening up to people. And I'll admit, I'm not the easiest person to get along with at times. Maybe ever." She paused, as if trying to decide how to say what she wanted to. "You can tell me, Rayla. We're in this together." he assured, looking down at her. She looked up at him, violet eyes reflecting the stars above them. Callum, if I made a dumb mistake or said something really stupid to you or anyone else, would you stay? His chest clenched at the vulnerability in her eyes. Did she really think that anything she did could make him walk away? But, he reasoned, at least she was being open with him. Straightforward with her fears and insecurities, no matter how unnecessary they were. Of course I'd stay. He looked at the moon, only a day from being full. I've known you for a month now, but I've already known that I couldn't imagine a life without you, he admitted softly. He looked back at her. Nothing you could say or do could ever change that. She smiled, snuggling closer. Right back at you, she murmured softly, eyes closing. He smiled, wrapping an arm around her. Good night, Rayla. Good night.